So Jared,
So Josh,
why don't time travelers need therapy?
because they're too busy seeing the world. I don't know.
Because they can always go back and fix their problems.
Oh yeah, of course. I should have thought of that.
Which is kind of what this film's about.
Yeah, a second go around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found another one.
Okay.
Honorable mention here.
Cool.
I went back in time to stop myself from making bad jokes. Turns out I was unstoppable.
Yes. That's good.
Hey, welcome back to Screen Time, a film podcast where we discuss a director's filmography. Currently in the 80s of Francis Ford Coppola. FFC. So Jared, I've got the hair, I've got the teeth, I've got the eyes, I've got the car. I'm out. I'm the lead singer. I'm the man. Why are you arguing with me?
Got it all. No need to argue.
So I'm Josh, and this is my co-host Jared.
Josh, how does it feel to skip the sexual revolution?
I feel like I missed out.
Yeah. 1960.
Yeah.
Crazy time.
Mm-hmm.
My other one is Josh, you look great for a corpse.
What was that one?
I think it was the mom.
Okay.
I can't remember exactly. I just remember hearing it, I was like, oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. All right, so today we are discussing Peggy Sue Got Married. This came out in 1986, PG-13, hour and 43 minutes. Peggy Sue, on the verge of divorce, faints at her 25th high school reunion and wakes up to find herself back in 1960, leading her to try to spot and correct the mistakes that led to a disappointments and unhappy marriage. Writers Jerry Letling and Arlene Sarner. Of course, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Cinematography, Jordan Cronweth.
Yeah.
The guy who did Blade Runner.
I know. That's all I have, because I looked at his other stuff too, and I'm like, well, that's all it needs to be said.
That's all it needs to be said. I know. That's
Blade Runner.
Yep. Music by John Barry.
Yep.
Production costs.
Ooh, yeah. A lot of sets. A lot of set decoration.
Mm-hmm.
And we get a decent amount outside too. So they have a lot that you have to kind of make feel like the 1960. And we're in 1986 now, probably 85 when they filmed it or so. I'm going to say 25 million.
18.
Okay.
Which I thought
Not bad.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, not bad.
All right, so this was nominated for Best Actress in Lead Role for Kathleen Turner.
Nice.
Nominated for Best Cinematography, Jordan Cronweth.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's how you say that, because it's like an
Cronenweth. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Cronenweth, like Cronenberg. I don't know.
Nominee for Best Costume Design as well.
Cool.
All right, so we've got Kathleen Turner, Nicolas Cage, Barry Miller, Catherine Hicks, Joanne Allen, Kevin O'Connor, Jim Carrey,
Yeah.
Lisa Jane Persky, Lucinda Jenny, Will Schreiner, Barbara Harris, Don Murray, Sofia Coppola, and Helen Hunt.
Yeah.
All right, so what'd you think?
That is the question.
That is the question.
This is FFC in the 80s. It's like, you never know. I'll say, like, basically like the last few pods, well, basically all of the 80s movies of his. Neither one of us had seen this movie before. I feel like I've heard the title.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, and like the artwork, the cover looked familiar too to me. But besides that, I did ask our parents if they've seen it. They had not, but they said they've heard of it.
Okay.
Seemed like one they would have watched. I don't know why. So
Maybe.
I figured I'd ask them. But yeah. So another one, Going in Blind. I think it's a cool, like, fun idea for the plot, you know, like getting a second chance and perspective, like on a pretty pivotal moment in your life.
Mm-hmm.
So fun idea for it. I thought the set design and time period looked great.
Mm-hmm.
And overall, I liked it. It was pretty cool. Wasn't amazing, but I didn't hate it. It was fun. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I enjoyed it. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, I have some things I think could have been better, make it better.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it wasn't,
I got some notes
wasn't
about
bad, but but it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah. I think that's the key word here. Like it was fun. Like,
and I feel like it's the first one. It's the first film since, so in this decade, because that felt, and I felt very like polished execution.
yeah, it did.
You know, like a lot of the stuff that we've watched recently have been either like experimental things in there, doing different weird things, which is fine. But, you know, I feel like this felt a little bit more just like, let's deliver something that's just a little bit more polished. And
Yeah, it seems like of all these 80s movies so far, this one seemed the most like mainstream, or like maybe was, I mean, it had some nominations, which is cool, but this one seemed, like I said, I feel like I've heard at least the title, so maybe this one got
a little more buzz.
Yeah, a little more popular than these other ones of this decade so far. I guess besides The Outsiders, that was a pretty big one, but yeah.
So how many movies in a row now is that with Nicolas Cage?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's
like 4 or 5?
All of these, right? No, except for One from the Heart.
Right.
I don't think he was in that.
Right.
But all the other ones, yeah, he was in it, at least in the background or more of a supporting character.
Yeah.
Yeah. His nephew, FFC's nephew.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, Sofia Coppola is the same. Like she's still in the background a lot, but like
since Godfather, when she was like a baby, pretty much. Yeah. It's funny seeing also, like, as we get through this movie, it's like she's always in them somewhat, but then it's like you keep seeing like she has a little bit more in each of these as it goes.
Like this one, she does a little bit more. I forgot. I kept meaning to do this, but Jim Carrey. I assume this is pre Ace Ventura.
Oh yeah, that was 90s.
That's right. Okay, so I was thinking that, but I just this is basically before he was in. No one even knew who he was, probably.
Yeah, like 90s is when he was like one of the biggest actors of that decade. So 80s wise though, like at this point, I imagine he was just known for, I'm sure there's some other movies that, I mean, write in, let us know if there's some notable ones, but I think the main thing would be In Living Color, the show he was on.
Yeah, that's right.
That's like the first thing that, I don't remember when that started, but I imagine that's probably the main thing he was known for at this point in the mid 80s.
Yeah,
but
makes sense.
I always love, especially when you have no idea like he's going to be in it. He's one of those actors, just like always happy to see him in something.
Yeah, he's great.
Yes.
Cool. Well, let's get into the movie. So, well, this kind of just starting off. Also was curious and looked up Back to the Future.
I was curious about that too.
Came out the year before this, 85.
definitely seems some influence.
So yes, my guess, and maybe we'll find this out in trivia because I don't look at that stuff ahead of time. My guess is the success of Back to the Future. This script was sitting around in a different studio, or maybe it's the same studio. I don't know. And they were like, "Can we fast track this to get it out a year later?" And they did.
That makes sense.
And to capitalize on the whole time travel story.
Mm-hmm. It seems like even elements, which some of it I thought was weird, that we'll get to, but some stuff that they maybe tried to like throw in there to make it get that popularity. Some elements of Back to the Future that I think were weird and maybe not the best choice for certain sections in this movie. But I mean, also it's like, you're not going to be able to top Back to the Future. Still hasn't been done.
No. Oh, well, like I said earlier, I think, like you mentioned, the idea, the premise of this is interesting because I think there's a lot of people who would love to go back and relive high school days, love to go back and like you mentioned in this pivotal part of your life, redo decisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think the idea, the concept of that is fascinating, and that it's kind of interesting. I feel like this would be a great movie to remake. Yeah,
it would. I'm surprised.
Because you could go back. I mean, you could set it kind of present day now and go back and do the 90s, or basically the year 2000. Because if it came out in 2025, which we're really close to.
I have a note about that.
Okay.
It's crazy, yeah. But no, I think there would, and I'm sure there's definitely shows that have, or movies and shows that have some of these elements in it. But yeah, remaking this, I think it'd be a good idea. They probably would do it as a show now instead of a movie to remake it. But
yeah, no.
I think it'd be a good idea. Honestly, be perfect, around now. Like you said, because around the time of like Stranger Things was like huge for 80s nostalgia, and then we got into 90s nostalgia. Now we're early 2000s nostalgia, which kind of makes sense. It is always around that 25 or 20 year time that we kind of look back at that time. So yeah, this would be like the right time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You ever seen Pen 15?
I've not. I've heard of this.
It's like one of the few shows that I remember like actually getting the like right at 2000s, early 2000s, like aesthetics so well.
Yeah.
It's like, we're getting to the time now where I'm like, man, I know these times that they're recreating like very well now. I'm that old that it's not great. Not great to get older, but it is fun. That I do feel a nostalgia for. It's kind of, I imagine it's different for everyone, depending on your age. Like, what do you look, or I guess think about or reminisce about, which time period. My first note, I just thought this was funny, like the opening scene as they're going to the class reunion, and I don't remember what guy this is that says it, but a guy tells them that it must run in the family because they both fell in love with musicians. And I just thought that was funny and relates to my side of things. But yeah, because he was talking about the our main actress in this, Peggy. But yeah, which by the way, also I thought the class reunion was good scene, good setup for the movie.
All those interactions and stuff felt very authentic and natural, and
really felt like a class reunion, like but a lot of the conversations that would happen.
Yeah, and then really well when they're all talking about the guy, the runner, and then And she mentions, yeah, would have hooked up with him.
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of, and like that again, great setup for for later.
Yeah, you knew that was gonna come into play.
They just sprinkled those things in there really well in that opening scene with the reunion that they paid off well later.
Yeah. So my next note is kind of what we were just talking about, where like just kind of crazy and makes me feel old thinking about it, but the time gap between the current year they're living in, mid-80s, to the time they jump back to is the same to right now, to the year 2000. Mm-hmm. Like that 25 we were just talking about is just like it's crazy to think about. I mean, whenever this pod gets released, might be right around New Year's. I don't know. I don't remember when this is going up, but yeah, we're going to be 2025, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, it is. So then, the kind of first note to mentioning about the once going back in time was the kind of once they settle and she gets home, and then just it was neat to see like her appreciate her sister, her mom, her dad, like just like really be like, oh my gosh, and then even like, and then she was the phone call and talks to her grandmother.
Oh yeah, and she's
like, she gets really, because like I assume they're probably passed away in present day. We don't really know. They never say that, I think, outright, but it's kind of implied. And so and that's crazy for all of us to think about. Like, well, yeah, you can go back 25 years. Yeah, there's people you can talk to that you couldn't talk to now anymore. Yeah, and how emotional that would be, and
for sure.
Yeah,
and she did really well. Like
Kathleen Turner. You talking about the actress?
Yeah, I was going to mention she was definitely a standout in this, and it makes sense why she got nominated. Yeah. She did really well in both time periods.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the people were pretty good in this.
Yeah.
I think Nicolas Cage was probably one of the weak ones.
Well, yeah. I got a note about him we'll get to as well. Yeah. No, you're right though. Yeah, pretty much everyone else.
Pretty solid.
Yeah, acting wise, but also they had a good cast of characters, different personalities in this. I thought all like balanced really well. And speaking of Jim Carrey, I had a note, it was just great seeing him. I mean, you see him right away at the reunion as Walter is his name. Mm-hmm. And I noticed, which is cool, you see not much, but you see little hints of his over-the-top kind of iconic acting that he does, that only he does in, a very specific way. Like you could see, I don't know if you noticed that, hints of it at times. He didn't, like, not too much, but yeah.
It was great. Dialed back or like hasn't fully formed.
Yeah.
But yeah. So just think about like the premise of being able to go back and try to change some of the regrets, right? You have, right, which is kind of what she's trying to do. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the big regret being it didn't work out with this guy and I'm on the verge of getting a divorce. Mm-hmm. So maybe I'd shift my destiny by breaking up with him and pursuing. So the idea of that, but now it's interesting because like they play with that, and then they kind of. She's got the nerdy friend that she talks to about. Mm-hmm. Actually, is the only person that really knows where she's from. But
I thought he was great.
Yeah,
too.
He was. It's interesting that they don't go as far as like in Back to the Future, where they're like, "Hey, I could tell you something, and then you end up being really wealthy."
They don't do the almanac thing, yeah.
No. But the. I lost my thought of it. What was it? Oh yeah, the regrets and stuff. Mm-hmm. But that was interesting that after all said and done, like she kind of isn't able to change it really. Like she does all these things, but it's like kind of still ends up in the same path.
Yep.
Just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it now that it seems like even so far, and I imagine there's probably going to be more in the future, but Coppola, he's done a lot of movies with like, obviously not the time travel thing, but like different trajectories for relationships. I mean, The Rain People was a little bit similar to this, but he's had a decent amount of movies that kind of seems like he likes to explore this type of dynamic, which I don't know if it's just has to do with his life. I mean, normally that is the case. You know, you're bringing something from your own life into creating a story. So I wanted to mention also one other thing. It was just funny is we see more at the beginning with Peggy and then her daughter, which is Helen Hunt, right?
Yep.
I don't remember the name of her in this, but
Beth.
There we go. It was just funny in the 80s scenes. Helen Hunt looks way older than Peggy. She's supposed to be the daughter, but like them as actresses, did you notice that too?
Oh yeah.
I was like, this is a little hard to.
Yeah, I'm like, she looks a little too old to be her daughter. Yeah. Even though it's a very young Helen Hunt compared to like what we're used to seeing. So. I think also just again with the whole Back to the Future thing, it was interesting because he obviously travels more distance in time, right?
Yeah.
But this like it focused so much on like the relationships and her relationships with other people and less about like just trying to get back and not change the future, right?
Yeah.
Just kind of what the Back to the Future premise is, right? Like he's like, the longer he's there, the more likely he's gonna mess something up, and so he's just trying to get back. Yeah,
it's good that they did that and not leaned into Back to the Future too much, where they had focused on a very different thing.
Really hardly even touch on like the sci-fi element of time travel. Like they really just, I mean, because even Back to the Future doesn't get into it deep at all. Like, right, it's still saying
no, but they have that.
But they at least have it
great scene where he writes it all out on the the whiteboard.
And then they have like, and of course the whole where you start to fade from the picture and like the different. There's like things there that like kind of build a little bit of that layer in the world, but this like they just like didn't even touch it. But it's because again it's so much more of a relational character piece.
Very much so, yeah.
And so it's like you don't need that. We're just here to.
Yeah. It's funny, like just even
because I just made just a thought, like, because really this could have been a whole dream sequence, just her like, and not actually time traveling to like possibly think through, hey, these are the possibilities. I could have made these decisions and how things panned out.
Well, and the way she gets to the 60s and then even closer to the end of the movie when she comes back, like it does seem very much like she was just it was a dream.
Which again, just trying to be like as grounded, I guess, as possible in this and not making it very sci-fi.
No. They do. One of my next notes is, which I thought was a good scene. This is the only time they really do touch on what you're talking about, like the whole time travel thing. Yeah. Richard is the guy. So I thought Peggy and Richard, like the scenes with them and their dynamic, I thought was a high point for the movie. And I it was funny, and I liked his explanation of it, like being like a burrito. It was just, I was like, okay, that's a pretty solid theory if you to make it more, I don't want to say dumbed down, but make it as simple as possible to explain to someone. But yeah, they, I liked their scenes. I thought they were good.
Yeah. And I liked someone was in him and her, because she talked to him, but then like a couple of times, like seeing the confidence that she had once she was back there as a mature person, and that you don't have normally in high school. Right. And so like the one annoying lady that kept like saying stuff to her, and she finally just like tells her all as it is. And the same with like him, like they're like, why are you talking to me? And she's like, I'll do what I can talk to him. He's an interesting person. He's some really smart guy, whatever. Like, it's just like it's cool to see like the maturity or the confidence that comes with maturity, right?
Yes.
And then seeing her be able to use that in being in high school and the power that gives her, really.
Oh yeah, it's a huge difference. And I like that point because I think it's a good thing that they kind of focus in more than, like you said, like how they focus in on Back to the Future. This is good how they focus more on, like you said, the relationships. And I think doing that, like it is so interesting to think about, like going 25 years back with the wisdom and knowledge you have now. And they portray that pretty well, like how, like you said, how more confident she is, but also just how she interacts with people. It's like, because high school is just a confusing time for everyone. You don't really have an identity, or you're changing your identity all the time to fit in with whoever.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I don't know if you have, because I kind of just wanted to note about the end and then talking about a couple things I think could have been better, but do you have any stuff in between there?
Yeah, just a few things. We should just talk about now Nicolas Cage. Like, why is he doing that voice? It's so nasally and just bad. I don't know why that was the decision for that. And I don't know why, if it was even Nicolas Cage's idea, why Coppola was just like, yeah, good. Yeah. Run with that. Like, no. And it's like, it's just so weird because we know how good of an actor Nicolas Cage is.
Yeah.
And he does the Nicolas Cage thing, like, not in this movie, but in the future, he does this thing. And he does a lot of like weird roles and does like quirky things normally with a lot of his characters. Same with Jim Carrey, but just in a very different way. But in this, he's not doing any of that. It's just, it's just weird that because he's one of the main characters, it's just he's probably one of the weakest, like you said, in this movie. Yeah, not great.
Well, how about the grandfather and his conspiracy theory group of people?
Yeah, this is the part. So before we get there, because that's part of the ending. I thought it was funny. So two things. Well, I guess three things. These are all just very small things before the my last note about the ending. We can get into that. But this one I think was one of the funniest scenes in the movie. Was Peggy's mom saying to Peggy, she says, "Do you know what a penis is? Stay away from it." Do you remember that?
Yes.
It's just, her mom, I don't remember the actress's name, but she was great too. But just her delivery of that line was.
Yeah, it was also funny when she wants to, and she wants to like have sex with her boyfriend at the time, but like someone who she was married to for 25 years or 20 years, whatever it was, ended up being. And he's like, whoa, what's going on? And then like she makes like, has a name for his penis or something. Yeah. I don't remember what it was, but it was just funny because it's like, it's these inside things that maybe she shouldn't have known at that point, but like she knows it now because.
Yeah. And then, I don't really have anything to say about this other character, but, the character of Michael, it's just, it was just funny to see, like, cause this is a very real thing, and especially in high school, like, he's the stereotypical like poet lover, emo guy. Like he's, she sees him, he's like just always reading a book or something, or reading poetry. So very like very stereotypical, but like very on point to like that certain kind of guy, especially in high school.
Yeah.
And then just the other thing is, because we only see it for like probably a minute, but I always love seeing record shops in movies. So we get a very quick scene of her in there, but I love seeing that, especially in any time period, like a a period movie where from a previous decade. I just always love seeing that. So, but yeah, something like that though, like that definitely raises the budget, because that scene was, like probably a minute or two, and it's a whole record shop that had to be. I mean, I'm sure they found one, but it's like they had to change it somewhat,
maybe,
to make it look like 1960. You see the outside of it too, like so.
Yeah, and then the grandfather and his
the ending,
it's almost the ending, not quite.
Right, the last bit before she gets back to present day. Yeah. This was weird.
These guys in their ceremonies, and she's like, "What does Grandma think you're doing? Like playing cards and smoking cigars or something?" I don't know. Like he says.
So that's what he says when he goes out there. He's like, "Yeah, I'm just playing cards with the boys or something."
Yeah. Dude, there's some like conspiracy theory, like what do they call this?
Big time.
What do they call it? The Illuminati kind of.
Very much, yeah. That's what it seemed like, yeah.
But also it was funny because it just like catch you off guard and everything.
Yeah, this was the part I was just like, what I thought was just weird. Yeah, this whole ritual and everything that they were doing to try to get her back to present day. It's just like, this was the part of the somewhat ending or third act of the movie that was like, this seems a little, doesn't fit with the rest of the movie. And I know it's intentionally supposed to be like off-putting because of like this whole group of people or cult or whatever they are doing, like you said, Illuminati type thing. But yeah, this is the part of it that I didn't really like that much, because it seemed too far like out of the ordinary for this feel of this movie. So yeah.
Well, there was funny parts though. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there was. It's just this was the part of the movie I didn't like as much.
Okay. Well, then the end. So she comes back, and the most predictable thing.
Oh yeah.
Just the one.
It's like one from the heart. We were like, the whole ending of that was so predictable, and this was
the same.
Similar. Yeah.
You're like, okay. But what I wanted to know or say is, I think what would have made this a much stronger film is if we kind of had a little bit more with present day Nicolas Cage's character. I feel like we didn't get enough with him to care about him. And so like as much as the movie was fun, like I really didn't care if she got back together with him or not. And I think that was the missed opportunity here. I think if you were able to develop a stronger bond, and then of course maybe it was because they didn't have chemistry or in the perform, those things that like go into right, because his performance was kind of
not great.
So like sticking somebody else in that role, and then being really seeing the chemistry, because I guess like now talking through it, like you almost didn't even see them together in the past, like when they were on screen, you're like, why is she with him, kind of thing.
And
I don't know if that was intentional.
Like a weird fit,
I don't know if that's what that is, but or if that was just again, just didn't really have that on screen chemistry.
No.
But I think that was really where this kind of felt short a little bit, like this film. Like I
agree.
Like you felt for her, you felt like there's moments when she's talking about meeting her, seeing her parents again, and her sister, and then her grandparents.
Yeah, everything with her was great. Like we were saying, her performance was great.
But then the whole thing that the premise is on is like, her getting on the verge of getting divorced. And then of course, by the end, spoiler, she rethinks her life and decisions, and she finds out, oh, actually he's not as bad as I thought he might be. And then she wakes up and he's been by her side the whole time she's been in the hospital, and let's give it another try.
Kind
of thing. So
I was hoping there'd be somewhat more not as predictable ending. Like,
Which, but if you go with so the predictable ending, if you were like rooting for it though, because there's plenty of times where you're like, you're really hoping these people are going to get back together, and if done correctly, I think you could have been so excited for that moment, even if it was predictable. Mm-hmm. But I was like, oh yeah.
No, you're right, because like we said, you care about her,
mm-hmm.
but not him.
Yep. So yeah, that's my.
Yep. I agree, but overall, like we said,
it
was fun. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we're getting to cinematography a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I'm curious what you think of this.
Well, I was nice. I mean, I think there was. Yeah. I don't. Again, I think I mentioned this in the same about the film last week. There wasn't anything like these and maybe I'm being like, because I mean we've been watching Severance in our TV podcast, and it's
you're spoiled by that.
By like these crazy.
That's like top tier,
like cinematography, and then you've got I don't know, like watching Dune, not the TV show, but the Dune film earlier this year. Like just seeing some good stuff lately, and then
like the top of the top,
and then like, but it's it's not. There's nothing that was like, I'd say like these like just pretty establishing shots and things that you see in these things I just referenced, but just the overall was they were nice, but what I think the choices of making in the past, all the stuff in the past was like more of like a soft, warmer lighting.
Mm.
And it, of course, helps give it more of a nostalgic feel. It also just makes it more inviting.
Yeah.
And it's her happy time, right? Like it's like her happy time. And then the present day was all more like a muted tones for the modern day. And which again,
you're right. There is that difference.
Helps distinguish those things, helps distinguish the emotional. Like she's obviously way more unhappy, but also just like confused, dealing with a lot more emotional back, like in the present day. And so doing that helped, I think, distinguish that stuff.
That's good, doing from her perspective or how she's feeling, matching the color with the cinematography. That's a good choice. Yeah.
Then I just know there's a lot of nice close-ups of Peggy or Kathleen Turner.
Mm-hmm.
Again, so focused on her character, the emotions, her relationships with other people around her. They were nice. I mean, they, well done. Just, and then they did use a lot. I was noticing a lot of like reflections, like her. Mm-hmm. And so obviously the whole movie is about her reflecting on about her choices. And so I think those metaphors obviously wrote itself, so to speak.
Yeah, that's my only, because I agree. I didn't have anything that was like big standout shots in this movie.
Yeah.
But my one thing is like, I think it's the very opening shot. It was really cool, showing the TV, then pulling back, and you're seeing it through a mirror. Like, so it's TV, then the mirror, her perspective. Mm-hmm. That was really cool. And I think they end, one of the last shots too is like that too, right?
The mirror in the hospital, I think, because
so I thought that was cool. And that was also a good way to start the movie. So even if it's not necessarily story, I think he's still continuing with like what he's done a lot, the very opening shot, getting you interested.
Mm-hmm.
Like the conversation was very much cinematography, like what they were doing with that opening, like really gets your attention. And so I think this was a good way to start this one too.
Yeah. You want to talk about music?
Score? Yeah. John Barry. This is the Bond guy.
Yeah, it's the same guy from last week. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So he's done a lot of Bond movies. Most of the film was mainly needle drops, which I loved because I love the music from this time. So there's a lot of good songs in there.
Mm-hmm.
Score was good though. That, like I said, there wasn't a whole lot, but also nothing memorable. No memorable themes or specific cues in there. So I did hear a little bit every now and then. Hear a little bit of the Bond style melody influence, not like the actual Bond main theme, but some of the similar melodies that we'd hear in some of those older Bond films. I heard that a little bit at times. But yeah, overall, it's just, like I said, nothing stand out. What about you?
Yeah. I mean, there wasn't anything to stand out, but then noticed some needle drops, as you said.
Yeah.
And was like, kind of like, that was what would stand out. And then I'd be like, oh, well, which is not bad. It's just, you're like, that's not something the person wrote themselves.
Yep.
So themes, messages.
Right. I didn't write anything down, but let's see. I mean, I guess a lot of it has to do with the path you take in life. Maybe also, I guess I would think also maybe this movie, like a theme of it would be like nostalgia and how potentially that's like nostalgia can be a great thing, but also can obscure your perspective or in some ways make you think like, oh, it was way better back then, but just like how nostalgia is, everything is seen through rose tinted glasses. Like you're seeing the greatest and not necessarily the bad things from that then. Yeah. What do you think?
I was thinking more like I was talking to you about before. What stood out to me was the decision to kind of her to still end up, even though she changed a bunch of her choices, she still ended up in the same path.
Yeah.
So when she came to the present day, like, and I can't remember what it was. There was something is different that you're like, oh, she did affect it, but in general, she's still married to him.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was. That was changed.
Yeah, but there was something that was like
guess it wasn't that big of a.
But it was something
change.
enough that like you as a viewer and her recognizing, oh, that did happen. It wasn't just a dream, but she still ended up with him.
Yep.
And so I don't know if it was kind of like the bigger. I don't know if the saying. I guess what they're saying is, the bigger stuff is it's your destiny. Even if you adjust some of the smaller choices, you're still going to end up on the same general path.
Mm-hmm.
And so don't live with regrets, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, so I think kind of felt like that was what it was saying.
I agree.
And then of course, appreciate what you got.
Yep. That was kind of a theme in a few of these most recent movies. We were talking about that same
Definitely
thing.
The romance one in Vegas.
One from the Heart.
One from the Heart. Yeah.
Yeah. That's very similar.
All right. Let's do a little trivia.
Trivia. Yeah. What was the thing we were wondering about? What you mentioned up top of the pod?
One second. The Back to Future.
That's right. Yeah. See how the correlation, if there's any.
Like, did the studio have them
fast track it? Yeah.
Yeah. Or, the script. I forgot that lady because it's the mom from Seventh Heaven.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's the one friend of hers on in the.
Man. Seventh Heaven. Great show. It's like one of the few things we were allowed to watch growing up.
All right. So in the original script, Rosalie, the woman in the wheelchair at the high school reunion, was a gymnast and was disabled in an accident. In the original script, Peggy Sue tried to take advantage of her knowledge of the future. She invented pantyhose, encouraged people to invest in Xerox, and tried to prevent Rosalie from hurting herself. Okay, so that's kind of what we were talking about.
Like, there's the more almanac thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And she did mention the pantyhose thing, but then it didn't go anywhere. Yeah. There was that scene. The blue 1958 Chevrolet Impala convertible that Nicolas Cage drives was later given away in a sweepstakes tied in with the opening of the film.
Oh, man. Wish I was alive then to potentially win that car.
So while visiting 1960, Peggy Sue warns her sister about eating red M&Ms.
I do remember this.
Red M&Ms were discontinued in 1976 when red number 2 dye was named as a suspected carcinogen. In 1986, after the film was released, red M&Ms were reintroduced with a different red dye.
Yeah, that is something I remember her mentioning to her family members, like when she's first in 1960, talking about different things like, oh, why do you guys do this? You shouldn't do that. You know, different aspects like that. And how, not just food, but other things, how much changes from time to time in those 25 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just says we've got, there's only an Oscar nomination for Kathleen Turner.
Oh, in her whole career?
Yeah.
Wow.
Sofia Coppola later would direct Kathleen Turner in Virgin Suicides.
Nice.
Steve Guttenberg was considered for the role of Charlie. And in Guttenberg's biography, The Guttenberg Bible, Steve recounts that he spent most of his audition questioning Francis Ford Coppola about the making of The Godfather. So instead of like trying to get the job, he's just like, dude, I got
to tell you about Godfather, my thoughts and opinions. Yeah.
Kathleen Turner usually feels the role she's playing intensely. In this movie, she had terrible nightmares about her dead grandfather calling her on the phone, and similar to what Peggy Sue feels in the phone scene. The opening shot in the film is an optical illusion because the camera crew would have been seen in the reflection of the mirror.
Yep, I was wondering about that.
There's a body double for Kathleen Turner. So, as the theme shot in the mirror, there is only she can be seen from behind the shot and on the other side of the mirror, doing the exact opposite of the star's movement, given the illusion that Turner and Helen Hunt are reflections, when in fact they were the real actors in tableau with a body double sitting in front of them with her back to the camera in front of the empty mirror frame, framing a hole in the wall of the set.
Cool. I like when they do that in movies, especially like back then we do a lot of camera tricks. I always think that's interesting.
In 2008, Nicolas Cage settled a libel suit against Kathleen Turner for falsely claiming in her memoir, Send Yourself Roses, that he was arrested twice and had stolen a dog.
It's very random.
All right, here we go. Nicolas Cage based his character's voice on Pokey of the Gumby Show. And Francis Ford Coppola and the producers hated the voice, and Cage was nearly fired. But Cage managed to convince Coppola he was making a good choice.
Okay, well, that answers our question. FFC should have put his foot down and be like, nah, dude, you're not doing that.
Yeah. Deborah Winger was offered the role of Peggy Sue and was actually cast, but a back injury from a bicycle accident forced her to withdraw from the film.
I could definitely see her in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Dennis Quaid turned down the role of Charlie.
Oh. I could also see that.
To appear in The Big Easy.
Nice.
Helen Hunt, who plays Peggy Sue's daughter, is 9 years younger than her mother, Kathleen Turner, and a year older than her father, Nicolas Cage. So she's technically 9 years younger than her, even though, like you said,
and then she looked, older. It's funny. It's kind of similar to, I remember we were talking about on the Outsiders pod. It's like the actual age of like a lot of those actors was like crazy different than what they were playing in that movie.
Yeah, nothing about why they made it.
I mean, there's still, for sure, had to have been some influence from Back to the Future.
Oh, I'm
Even
sure.
if everything was already like the script and everything and they were already filming, I'm sure some of it went into it, like at some point during the production that inspired from Back to the Future.
Yeah. Well, final thoughts. What's the next film?
I don't know. I was just going to look that.
So yeah, I was looking up too. You got it?
Gardens of Stone.
Gardens of Stone.
Yeah.
Never heard of it.
Me neither. I'm trying to think even just from that name. I can't even think of what the movie is about. I have no idea. But we talked
it's about a garden of stone.
It could be. But
It's in the title, Jared.
Yeah. We like I always like going in completely blind. You have no expectations and you just experience it.
Yeah. Just let it wash over you. Yeah. Well, what are your guys' thoughts on this film? Have you seen it? Did you watch it because we talked about it?
Yeah.
Let us know. You can do that by emailing us at feedback@screentimepod.com or leave a comment on YouTube or send us a DM. You can like and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, and TikTok. Follow us on TikTok as well.
Yes.
And if you'd like, you can follow either of us on Instagram. I'm at JYoungBar.
And I'm at Jared Youngbar.
All right. Catch you guys next time.